You're coming into your third term, and thank you for what you do for the citizens
Yeah.
in Galveston. But I guess a question maybe you were asked the last two times when you ran, the third time is, why do you want to do this? You've got other things you could be doing, but why the?
One, it's I enjoy it. Number two, it's good public service. Number three, it's hard to believe I've been doing this 30 years, and I think I have experiences and still have a vision of what I think needs to be done and what I'm trying to get accomplished. So, it's I'm known for my list. I've got a list for everything. If I'm successful and if the city's successful, I have a bigger list when I leave than when I started. And so we'll never get finished, but we'll continue to strike them off, and we'll just keep adding new things as times change, but still more to contribute is the main reason I'm running.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, Jim, the island has undergone, some would say, a dramatic and better change since Eric and I. And one thing that we all know is a real vibrant, young group of people, 30s and 40s here on the island. How do you see creating an economy here that drives those people to stay and to build homes and educate their kids?
Sure. Benny, one of the things I've kept up with over the years is, and doing it more now because we're doing this Little League complex on 53rd Street. We have more kids enrolled in Little League today than we've had in the last 25 years, according to the Jerry Gillards and the folks who run the Little Leagues. Indication that there are younger people coming in to validate what you said and what your gut feel said. There's no one thing we can do. Again, let me preface. Everything I say is my opinion. It's not city council's. It's not the wharf board position. It's my opinion. We've got a great downtown. Young people like the downtown. The younger folks like the downtown environment, that type of lifestyle. We've got Mother Nature's good to us. The geography is great. We've got pretty good climate most of the time. We've got 5 cars at a stop sign. It's a big traffic problem that they don't, when you go to League City or the other surrounding suburban communities, they have to fight. We've got to continue to work partners with schools. That's still an issue, perception of our schools. With technology, the economy is pretty broad. A lot of folks can work off the computer and don't have to leave the island to interface with their corporate headquarters in Houston or some other community. But to me, Benny, the key is, of all of what we do, is do what cities ought to do. Do our basics. Create the environment that people want to live here. We've got geography. We've got Mother Nature on our side. We've got the proximity, 45 minutes from the Astro game anytime you want to go, or to the theater, even though, as I've told you, I like half times rather than intermissions. But, we've got all the culture, all the shopping, all the dining 45 minutes away. So we've got that on our side. We just got to do the basics. We've got to have good infrastructure. We've got to have good streets. We've got to have updated housing. We're not going to have new housing. We're not going to have planned development like a lot of the competition of cities. Every community in the country wants middle-income America. Mom and dad, 2 kids, standard America. That's big competition when everybody in America wants the same thing. So we've got to gravitate to our natural resources. Empty nesters, senior citizens, great medical, great complex. Like I say, still can drive to Houston and enjoy the amenities. The young people, the same way. So we just got to go to our natural resources. We've got to do the basics: provide infrastructure, law enforcement, fire protection, EMS. Stay out of the way. We've got to foster. Gene and I had a conversation earlier this week, whatever day, Tuesday, I guess it was. Our biggest growth for economy is just marketing our own folks. We always focus on trying to go give incentive to entice somebody to come to town or get somebody to relocate. That's tough business. So we don't want to lose track of that. We want to continue to try that, but let's get our own. most of the businesses we have in town have the capacity to grow. Let's foster that. Let's figure out how we can help them. Most of our businesses at the port, we're not the only port that they do business with. They do business in Freeport, they do business in Lake Charles, they do business in other places. We don't want all their business. Just give us a little bigger sliver of the pie. And we can grow our economy, we can grow our businesses. Yeah, we want the new one. And if it fits what we want to do, we need to incentivize it to try to get it here. Unlike years past where we jump for everything that glitters and hope it's gold and hope it strikes for us. And that's why the port's, in my opinion, why the port is like it is we've just jumped for everything hoping we could get somebody to come down here. When you're focused and you know what you want, when the opportunity is right, you can incentivize it, you can work, you can lay the plans to reel them in.
I've got a three-part question to follow up.
Oh, well, you may have to remind me each part.
That's no problem. One is, you talked about your long-term vision.
Yeah.
So what is that, and how can we keep that moving forward?
Can we take a,
And then you mentioned housing, what's been done and what more can be done.
okay, well, let's take them one at a
Okay.
time, then you can
Okay.
refresh me.
Okay.
Vision. Again, if I were king for a day and not mayor, we're about 53,000 people. All we need to be is about, in my mind, 55 to 57,000. We don't need to be 100,000. No, we couldn't handle it. We don't have the water. We don't have the infrastructure. We'd have to increase overhead. If we grow another 4,000 or 5,000 folks, we can do that with the same overhead we've got, adding more police, more fire, and some things that go incrementally as you get a bigger population. You know, I'd have the Port of Galveston is probably the biggest area of opportunity for economic growth. In my mind, the Port of Galveston from 27th Street East would be tourist-related, softer port, not right on the water, not condos on the water. That 45-foot water is valuable. You can't replace it. But where the Lipton Tea Building is, that Seeley Smith owns, great condo, great hotel. That one live railroad track that goes all the way down to Del Monte, perfect for the trolley. Hook it into downtown, hook it into UTMB, and make that circuit. Work with the Mitchell Group on all their property and connect. You got cruise ship terminals 1 and 2 over there in the 25th to 27th Street area. The third one needs to be at 15. And we're working with Royal Caribbean, as you know, on that. We think there'll be a public-private partnership. We can't finance $100 million by ourselves. You go to the west of the port. When I say west of the port, I'm talking west of 27th Street. My opinion, we don't need to be in the grain business. If you look at the grain elevator, it takes up the biggest amount of geography we have, and it's right in the middle of the port. And the grain business, like everything else, has moved to technology. There's no ILA jobs, there's no jobs. There's 3 ILA jobs every 2 weeks over there. ADM just spent $125 million in Corpus. They didn't spend a dime here. Where's ADM gonna move their grain? Corpus. You can't push them out, they got a contract, but if you tell them they're not part of the plans, there'll be opportunities to move them out quicker than 15 years, which is left on their contract. Take that down, move Del Monte from the east end over to 47th Street, 27th Street. Cluster, we ought to be in the frozen or the refrigerated cargo business. We got Del Monte, we need Dole, we need Chiquita, we need to have a complex there. Their business has changed, just like, you know, we got a big old refrigerated warehouse over here for Del Monte. Don't need that anymore. You know what you need for that business? Electric plugs. They bring that stuff in here on a refrigerated container. Plug it in. As we transition them out of there, it takes less traffic. My goal is to have no heavy trucks moving east of 33rd Street on Harborside. You know, you move the roll-on, roll-off, that iron, the heavy equipment stuff that comes in and out of the port down there on 10th Street, 11th Street. Move that to the west. And then all of a sudden now you've opened it up for the tourists. You allow them to walk across Harborside without those big trucks. You just create a different environment. I think the port ought to spend all of our money on the island side of the port property. The Pelican Island side needs to be truly a public-private partnership. They've got enough investment over here that we don't have the money for. Let the private sector, we may have to give up some stuff, but let the private sector develop our Pelican Island property. That ties in with the bridge. We're meeting next week with TxDOT. and HGAC to try to continue to move the bridge forward. You know, I see the Seawall Boulevard, talking vision, and if I'm not answering your question, pull me back. We're gonna have a pilot project. Everybody seen our 27th Street project from Avenue O to Broadway? Well, that's getting ready to move from Avenue O to Seawall. So, again, think corridors. What have we done? We've done 43rd Street. Everybody been down 43rd Street, Concrete Road? We've done 53rd Street. We're doing 27th Street. We've got in the bond issue, we're in design right now, 45th Street. We're trying to build those connectors between Broadway and Seawall. Why? We're gonna begin to market tourists. Don't everybody come to town and turn right on 61st Street. Come on down into town. Use the corridors elsewhere. 27th Street, part of that's gonna be putting esplanade improvements, kind of like the palm trees on seawall. They'd be raised because you can't get into the base of the seawall. We're gonna put palm trees and stuff to break up the concrete between all 6 lanes of traffic. 1, we think it's aesthetic. It makes it look like a tropical island. 2, it'll give tourists and people who want to go from one side to the other, instead of mom, dad, kids, cooler, dog, all running 6 lanes, they can come to an esplanade and stop, wait for the traffic to move across. You notice our restrooms. People want to know, why'd you pick those locations for restroom? It's in front of my business. I don't want the restroom in front of my business. We've had that conversation a dozen times along the beach. Those restrooms are structured toward traffic signals. We want to, if people got to go to the restroom, bring them to the traffic signal, restroom, go across the street with the traffic light. There'll be more restrooms going in, shower components. You know, I drive this, I'm fortunate I don't have a regular job, and so I'm unemployable, but I drive this city every day. And I start in East End on Monday, and I'll go all the way to San Luis Bridge through the week. There's not a street in town that doesn't have something going, literally. You drive the streets, and you look, there's landscaping going, there's a paint job going, there's a porch added, there's an awning added, there's something going on literally on every block. Folks, that's all that's gonna come together here pretty soon. And we're gonna wake up one day and say, oh, how'd that happen? You know, I see, again, working with the chamber to help you capture the business community, so we need to work with the chamber and your membership to say, how can we help you expand? Our incentives need to be targeted. We're gonna target Broadway, and we're gonna target West Market initially with incentives. We don't want a Ramco with a cyclone fence. We don't want Moody Compress with a cyclone fence. We don't want the Catholic Church on 34th with a cyclone fence. We want wrought iron. We want something else if you have to have a fence. How do we incentivize? Do we pay for half? Do we give you an abatement for a couple of years? Not abatement, but a freeze on your taxes. How do we incentivize to get you to maybe be able to afford to do what we want you to do? Over and over again, I hear business tell me, I don't want to make improvements because I don't want the Central Appraisal District taxing me more. Well, we've got, with the tools of today, the Section 380 agreements, we just did it for Falstaff. That was one of his concerns. That stuff's on the tax rolls for $60,000.
5 minutes.
Oh, gosh. You know, we freeze the taxes, the city tax, not all the tax. Anyways, I'm sorry, housing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Housing, you know, the private sector's doing a good job of housing throughout the community. The city just purchased acreage out there at the airport from ourselves, the airport. We're gonna either develop or work with private sector to develop a 5-acre tract there that, and when we say, I don't even know what middle income housing is anymore, VJ, it's you know, when we were growing up, it's $60,000, now it's $250,000, I guess, but we're trying to build housing that will accommodate, not to compete with a VIA, we're not getting to that high level, but we're gonna try to compete with things that maybe fire, police, and teachers can afford. If we're successful with developing the 5 acres there, there's another 20 acres across the way that's got wetlands that really could be something dynamite
sorry,
on the other side.
The city's doing it, or, I'm sorry, who's doing the?
We are, I don't think the city can be a developer,
Right,
to be honest with you. We don't have the expertise.
Yes, sir.
But we've got the property. We are going to be working with the neighborhood out there and the real estate community to develop deed restrictions on what we want to put in place. And we will probably put it out on the market for a developer type John Paul or a Sullivan or other developers to come in and develop that property.
So is that what you see long-term as the city's solution to affordable housing?
Part of
or
it.
What else?
Part of it, north of Broadway, west of 25th. I'm not a marketing guy, I'm tired of calling it north of Broadway, because most people in this room who've been here, you think of every negative adjective you can think of. May need your help.
Can help
You
with
know,
that.
it needs to be innovation district, or something, we refer to it as something that's much more positive. You can see it, we break north of Broadway into 3 segments, 25th to 33rd, 33rd to 46, 46 west. We're that close to getting Oleander property back from HUD. McCoy's wants to go on 51st, Aldi's wants to go on Broadway. The part in the middle, 33rd to 46, scattered sites, the last phase of public housing. I think we're going to end up with probably another, I'm guessing, we're meeting with HUD, have met with them, I think we're going to end up with probably another 50 or 60 units is what we're going to end up with. And we're going to be done. We finally got them to agree because of the investment the city's making over there. They see that that area is being regentrified and coming up. They're now going to allow us to put scattered sites north of Broadway, west of 25th, which was prohibitive 5 or 6 years ago. 33rd to 46, a lot of streets where you got 4 or 5 houses, 2 or 3 empty lots, house, empty lot. Put those scattered sites in there. You get over here on this section here between 25th and 33rd, good Lord, city's new fire station, new public works building on Market. We just tore down shanties on 30th and Market. You know, we've got new sidewalks connecting the entire area in that area, new street lights going in. West Market Street, we're going to redo West Market from 25th to 33rd. All new sidewalks, all new curbs, brick pavers from 25th to 28th, traditional sidewalks from 28th to 33rd, all new decorative street lights, palm trees down Market Street all the way. You see what Jerome's doing at Falstaff. We were planting seeds with Jerome 5 years ago, 4 years ago. We're doing the same thing with Mr. Martini. We're going to get that Martini Theater turned around. And then we're going to get that 45th and Gerland's property turned around. Got a little family issue on that one he does not have over here. You know, we've got things moving. We think for us old timers, living north of Broadway would be inconceivable. For the new folks, the millennials and the new folks coming in that Benny referred to, north of Broadway's geography. It's just a direction of town. And so we think there's housing opportunities there. We've just begun to have conversations with the school district. They've got excess property. How can we work to not sell their property, but how can we work with them? Are there programs and grant opportunities to provide for housing on their property, which cuts the cost down, to allow teachers either to rent to buy or lease to own, find some program that we can use Alamo, keep the main structure, take those 2 new annexes off either end of Alamo, a lot of property around it. How can we work with them? Other communities are doing that to try to provide opportunities for the folks who already work here to live here.
Mayor, we're trying to get a couple more questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm Brown, but you know me. Cut me off, just, you know.
Exciting stuff at the port. I think everybody's excited about the direction there. You mentioned the public-private funding. Can you go into a little more detail about how you're going to fund what you need to do there?
Steve starts with a plan, and we've not had that. We're developing that. Roger Reese has come in, and we're finally seeing some traction moving. I don't want to give away trade secrets or negotiations, but Royal Caribbean, for example, that's a $100 million complex. And $100 million is not just the cruise terminal, that's the ports shoring up the dock and providing the gangways and the planks and all the stuff to get passengers off the ship onto the land and all the associated project. Royal Caribbean will come up with some cash, the port will come up with some cash, and then Royal Caribbean will probably allow us to put a, quote, head tax on their passengers that would be dedicated toward debt service. So you'll issue revenue bonds for the remainder and use their guaranteed head tax to pay that off until the debt's liquidated. Same way with the cruise ship parking. We're going to end up with 2 vertical parking garages on port property to handle the cruise ship business. If we didn't have cruise ship parking, folks, the port would be bankrupt 5 years ago. Everybody reads the paper, we make about anywhere from $250,000 to $1 million a year at the port. If you look at the cruise ship parking, just the gross margin, gross revenue minus direct expenses, we make $5 million, Shrubby. We only make $250,000 for the whole port. We make $5 million off the parking. That means we lose on everything else.
So how do we fund that other infrastructure? Oh, sorry.
So Jim, all this about the port and what it's gonna do, wouldn't it be a much more solvable problem, in your opinion, if the port had taxing authority? And what's your thinking about that?
Sure, that comes up all the time. And I laugh to myself, Shrubby, the port has taxing authority right now. If they got 4 councilmen who raise their hand to raise taxes and give the money to the port, they got it. Now, the port itself doesn't have it, but that's a city asset. And if they got 4 votes on council, we can raise taxes, or we can shift taxes. So we've got to do it in partnership. We had, again, meeting at the IDC. The 4B sales tax, it comes due in 2028. We don't have to do anything, and in 2027, somebody's going to be saying, hey, we need to extend that 4B. I don't think we ought to wait that long. We're talking about going out to the vote of the public in the next 2 years in my last term, because I think people can identify, we can show them West Market Street, Harborside Drive, ball fields, 27th Street, 45th Street. We can show them projects IDC's paid for. When we go back to the voters, we have 4 silos in the IDC silo: parks, beach renourishment, infrastructure, economic development. I don't want to interfere with the parks. I don't want to interfere with the beach renourishment. Let them continue to have a 25% of each silo. Take the other 50%. The easiest one, the most flexible of the silos to spend money on is economic development. Pretty broad definition of economic development. Have 50% of the money go into economic development. I wouldn't dedicate it all to the port, but I would push that to the port. You
would push that to the port for bonding?
Yes, either for
Okay.
pay-as-you-go capital projects or debt service on some type of bond.
Thank you.
Navigation District, we've had conversations with Chairman Byrd and Bill Ryder. There are tons of options with the Navigation District. The highest priority is the bridge. That's the one that's imminent. We need to get it done. Once we finish those discussions and get the Navigation District rolling that, which I think is going to end up being, I think the Navigation District is going to issue debt for all of the local share, whatever the local share on whatever option we come up with. And then the city will make a commitment to pay part of that debt service. The county will make a commitment to the Navigation District. A&M will make a commitment to pay the debt service back. Once you get that picture clear, then you get into what happens to the Navigation District when Bill Ryder and Frank Incaprey are no longer here. What happens to the Navigation District if we're successful, and we're not there yet, if we're successful in getting that bridge to be a TxDOT bridge, not a Navigation District bridge. Now you get into the conversations of how do they govern themselves? Do they stay a 3-person commission? Do they merge with the port? Do they just stay separate but provide tax help to the port via revenue bonds? Good to see you.
She did have a question.
Yeah. She's had a question for me for 4 years, and she's been asking. I get her questions every day. I don't know if that answered your question, Shelby, but there are many options to help the port. But again, I haven't wanted to give them. We just approved $1 million+ for the port Tuesday. I haven't been a big proponent of giving the port money because I didn't know what their plan was. I don't want to give money just to throw it against the wall. I want to see something that's sequentially, at the end of the day, we're going to have something we want.
Thank you. You had a question.
It was his question.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got something for you, Mr. Mayor. So and I appreciate, the economic development and bringing in businesses and middle-class jobs. It seems like, and you mentioned housing, middle-class housing for teachers. And the top 3 things that most people are going to look at from, at least from our experience, is, the property and housing prices, schools, and then crime also, which is,
Sure.
an issue here. Galveston, currently, we're in the 92nd percentile, meaning, 92% of cities, as the FBI collects their data, are safer than the city of Galveston. So for a middle-class family, if they look at that, it could be discouraging, or one factor that could discourage them from moving here. So my question would be, what are we doing as a city and city council, and more specifically the mayor, to try to get us, make Galveston more safe and more attractive to bring these middle-class families here?
Sure. I guess on the immediate front, in this last budget, as you know, we put 16 new officers on. Now, you know, part of the issue is recruiting them, retaining them, and all those things. It's not just a go, here's money, go hire 16 people. We don't have 16 people already ready to go to take those jobs. We've got to find a better system to, you know, I'm going to come back to that. But if we didn't elect anybody for city council, and we just had somebody who had the authority to issue contracts, we got enough projects in the pipeline that'll keep us busy for the next 4, maybe 5 years. If we didn't make another decision, we got projects under design that'll keep this coming out for 4 or 5 years. That relates back to what Clint's asking. We've got to get a system where we get those recruits ready for when the money's there to hire the people, that we've got people ready to go. It's nice for me to sit here and say we just authorized 16 new positions. How many have we filled, Clint?
Got a ways to go.
Yeah.
We've got 24.
Yeah, see, you know, we got money, we got desire, but we don't have the pipeline set up to get these people through the classes, get them trained, get them culled out where we know, hey, out of this 100 people, these 20 are eligible and qualified and ready to go. So we got to, that's long term. Again, didn't have anything to do with it. Brian Maxwell did, but we got a new police chief. By all accounts, great credentials, good ideas, energetic. Hopefully that will help. Retention's always an issue. I really don't know the statistics of how many we lose relative to other communities, but you spend a lot of money training them and getting them to be your type of police. We can't afford to lose them. That gets into the pay competition. I know you've never talked about police pensions before, but that's one of the, you know, if you were to ask me, one of the biggest issues left on the city's platter is the police pension. We have, I dare use the word fix the fire and fix the civilian. We have shored it up. It is better. It's not going to bleed us dry. The police is left. There's no question in my mind. There's common ground. We've got to find it. Is it going to be a solution that I like or Clint likes or that we all like? No. It's like anything else. It's give and take. Some of it's more money. Some of it's change of benefits. Some of it's change of assumptions. But we will find that common ground. You know, we've got, so pensions in particular, the police, we're not finished with the other pensions. You know, we want to provide some medical insurance with our pension that we don't have now. Our civilians can't retire. They can retire early. They just can't draw a check till they're 65. So what does that mean? A lot of our city employees don't have the luxury of retiring and waiting 4 or 5 years for a check. So you got a lot of older folks hanging on the back end of a garbage truck. You got a lot of older folks sitting there slumping asphalt into potholes. Well, what does that do, Benny? That causes workers' comp problems. Those guys can't do the same thing at 60 as they did at 40. So we've got to get some changes. We've got to get some medical insurance where they can afford to retire. We provide medical until they get to be Medicare. There's lots of moving parts on all these things that we think we can come into play to make something work. But the main thing is we got to do a better job of getting our folks ready for, we've got money, we've got desire to hire more police officers. And then, again, the final thing I'd say on that, Clint, is, and most people in town see the visible changes. They see streets, they see ball fields, they see trees on Broadway, they see old Andrews to the Causeway. I'm more impressed with what you don't see. The stuff behind the scenes, the management stuff, and all those things. You know, those things are really dramatically better. And that's what's cause for optimism, is that, you know, every day I see decisions being made and processes being implemented that are better than what we've had in a long time. And with the law enforcement, it's the same way. You know, all of us in this room have our businesses and do our job. We give projects to people who can handle it. You know, old Fred can do that, let Fred's department take care of that problem. Well, we've done that with the police department. We've given the police department what I call non-law enforcement activities. Why over the years, I don't know. Probably because they could handle it and nobody else in the city could. We gotta strip the non-law enforcement stuff out of the police department. Should law enforcement be our go-to people on animal control? Should our law enforcement be our go-to people on wrecker service? You know, maybe some of those things could be done by civilians and free up those certified officers doing those tasks and put them on the street. A lot of management things that we're looking at to try to figure out which the best way to organize.
Well, Mayor, glad you're here. Thanks for
Sorry I
taking
took
time
up
out.
so much time.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.